Jess, are our mics on? Yep, I hear 'em. Okay, we're going to do the invocation of the Pledge of Allegiance. Will you lead us in prayer, Commissioner Thomas?
Sure. Please join me. Gracious Heavenly Father, we thank you for this day. We thank you for this time we can come together and do the work of the people that we serve. We just ask your guidance and wisdom in all the decisions that we make tonight. We just ask your hands of healing for our colleague Chuck who's out sick and all those who are immersed in any sort of illness. Just ask you to watch over us, watch over them. Thank you for our first responders and our military. Keep them safe as they do their work. In Jesus' name I pray. Amen.
Amen.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Can I get an approval of the agenda?
So moved. Madam Chair. Change. I've got a couple of changes as well. I should make the motion first. Go ahead. I'd like to postpone item 18 to the next meeting. We've had an offer from a property owner to possibly donate some land that may or may not resolve the situation, but I think it deserves at least to be looked at and see the viability of it. And I think also something this important, I think all five of us should really be here to vote on it. So I'd ask we table item 18 to the next meeting. I'll second that. Ralph, I would also recommend that we move the public hearing to the first thing, so we can take care of that with the budget, so we don't have any issues with the Department of Revenue. Move the public hearing for the adoption of the military and the budget. Do that just first before citizens to be heard.
Okay.
Just handle it.
Do you want to go ahead and just get both public hearings out of the way?
I recommend that we do.
Okay.
I'll modify my motion then to that effect.
Is that okay with you? Mm-hmm. A motion is second. All in favor? Aye. Okay, so we are going to go right into public hearings. Number one, request board approval to conduct the final public hearing and adopt the fiscal year 2022-2023 final millage rate and final budget.
So moved.
We switched, David. Sorry.
Second. I'm sorry.
Yeah. Have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
What's the motion the second?
Hold the public hearing. Hold the public hearing? Yes. Go further.
You just need to read this stuff.
Yeah. That's right. You need to read the record.
Yep, but I don't have it in front of me.
You don't?
No, that's okay, because I can get it. That's no problem at all. I can assure you that I got a lot of other stuff here, so I did not do so. Here's the chairperson. This is the second of two required public hearings on the Wakulla County budget for fiscal year 2022/2023. If you wish to speak during the public hearing portion of this meeting, please step forward at the appropriate time. The tentative aggregate millage rate is 8.2 mils, which is 8.80% higher than the aggregate rolled back millage rate of 7.5370 mils. Now the county administrator will read the millage rate into the public record.
The proposed Board of County Commissioners of Wakulla County final countywide millage rate is 8.2000 mils, which is 8.80 more than the countywide rollback millage rate of 7.5370 mils.
I'm opening the floor for a motion to begin the public hearing.
So moved. Second.
The first and the second. Jess, is anyone turning a speaking card? It is under citizens to be heard. Okay. Mr. Jesse Ransom, Wakulla Teen Center.
Good. Last time we were here, and I got up and spoke on the Teen Center behalf and laid you guys out blueprint and everything that we're trying to do. And from my understanding that we've been rejected or denied, and we were just trying to figure out like what was the main cause.
Okay.
Or like, I don't know if I can ask you guys questions and get a response. I can't. You can certainly ask them after the meeting.
Yeah, we'll be glad to. Yeah.
Sure, they'd be happy to help.
Yeah.
Is that it?
That was it. I just.
Okay.
Thank you. We can address that with you.
Okay. Is there any discussion from the board? Is there a motion to close the public? So moved. Have a motion and a second? All in favor? Aye. Florida statutes require the board to address the final millage rate before addressing the final budget. The board must vote on the millage rate and the budget separately. I will now entertain the following motions. Number one, approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2022/2023 final countywide millage rate of 8.2 mils.
So moved. Second.
Got a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye. Number two, approve the Board of County Commissioners fiscal year 2022/2023 final countywide budget as presented by the Administrator on July 15th, 2022, and as amended through the agenda process today.
So moved. Second.
First and second. All in favor? Aye.
Okay.
We're going to go right into number two. Request board approval to conduct a public hearing and adopt an ordinance declaring a moratorium on reservations of capacity in the sewer system pursuant to section 31.022 of the code. Mr. Edwards.
Yes, this is as a result of, we've been discussing the changes to the sewer system. Basically what this will do is, it is a first come, first serve service, 150 with capacity currently at 150 home residential equivalent units connected at the Hickory Park lift station and 150 at lift station 76.
So moved. To approve. Second.
I have a motion second. I'm a citizen to speak.
Are we going to come back and look at this at a later?
Yes, most definitely, most definitely.
Ms. Kathleen Van Horn.
Good evening. My name is Kathleen Von Haney. I'm here in my individual capacity as a private citizen. I'm a resident of Crawfordville since 2007. I have three unreasonable risks to the vulnerable aquifer I just want to highlight for you tonight. On the moratorium, I read through the ordinance, and based upon the fact that the system is at or near capacity across both units of that sewer system, I recommend that the ordinance be a 320-day moratorium without any additional residential connections of 150 to each section, in light of the fact that the updates to the system will not take place until fall of 2023. The last thing we need to do is risk an overwhelming of the sewer system that results in raw sewage, untreated wastewater that can either back up into homes, affect the soil, groundwater, and the vulnerable aquifer. Keeping in mind, of course, that the Hickory Park section does have a piece of property that is located just south of Chips Hole Cave System, which we've talked about before, being only 100 feet below land surface. So if you go ahead and have a failure of the system, we don't want to have a nitrate dump literally going into the aquifer, because the nitrates are more vulnerable to migration. And I ask that my written comments be made part of the record as well. I will pass the copies over on each subject. Basically, the comprehensive land use plan requires the board to follow the Wakulla County Aquifer Vulnerability Assessment, so I ask you to do so there. Second risk is the risk, of course, of considering a gas station on the top of Chips Hole Cave at the northwest corner of Bloxham Cutoff and 319. We've brought this issue up before. Many citizens have spoken against it. I won't belabor the point right now. I have some comments in here for the board to consider as you move forward on those projects. Remember, the karst environment is very vulnerable to contaminate transport. It doesn't matter whether it's nitrates from an overwhelmed sewer system or it's petroleum contaminants. Risk number three, the imminent risk of contamination of Sopchoppy well number 5 in the Sopchoppy water system that supplies drinking water to more than 10,400 customers in Wakulla County, including Crawfordville, including my house, and that is due to the petroleum contaminated groundwater plumes that exist right here on the old sheriff's office site under the commission's chambers. And the plumes for years have been identified as constituting an imminent threat of contamination to Sopchoppy well. And I have an overlay of what the engineering reports show of contamination at 65 feet, 85 feet, 105 feet below land surface from Aaron Road all the way south of High Drive, where Choppy Well number 5 is. I'll give you just a couple of copies of those. I know you've seen copies because the board is the responsible party for this contaminated facility. I'd like you to confer with your expert that you're relying upon regarding transport of contaminants in the Woodville-Karst Plain, one of the projects that's going forward. I do understand that recently the county administrator and some of the members of the board have agreed to invite some local, state, and national experts on caves and karsts to give a presentation to the board so we can have a transparent discussion of what the risks are. So in short, these 3 risks that are out there right now that the board is considering, this could result in catastrophic results to our groundwaters, the springs, and the surface waters, fishing, everything else. So I ask you to be cognizant of what your obligation is under the Comprehensive Land Use Plan. Have a complete moratorium for 320 days, please. Let's avoid the risk.
Thank you. We have a motion and a second. Any discussion?
I'm sure, David, you're gonna watch that, and if it looks like we're bumping up on our limits, then we can revisit and revise the.
That's the purpose of the moratorium, is to allow us to be able to shut.
It's not at imminent failure either, so I don't know where that came from.
And we continue, we monitor that, and I get a weekly update on all the flows.
Very good.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. We're going to slip back up to the first citizens to be heard, Jess.
You.
Jesus.
Okay, let's get rolling with Mr. Bill Catalina.
Sure y'all have seen this before. I was gonna get up here. And rant rave, but it's nothing that y'all haven't heard before, so I decided not to. I just want to read you a short paragraph from my attorney. He's representing myself and Randy. Excuse me. Mr. Catalina, even the best intentioned volunteer has the potential to injure you, your friend, or anyone who steps onto that airport. These include harassment, assault and battery, and negligence, among others. The organization that you pointed out may be vicariously liable for this criminal act that you mentioned, no matter what the cause. That's very important there, no matter what the cause. And especially in cases of negligent hiring or not following prescribed hiring practices and their failure to adequately supervise or train the volunteer. Negligent hiring occurs when someone within the organization knew or should have known that a volunteer had some tendency that would cause injury to someone else and did nothing to prevent it. I can't believe that you had to write a letter to the county administrator to get him to have a manager's badge made for his volunteer. How many times have I warned you since late 2019 that this guy was going to explode? He finally did on May 2nd, 2019. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Catalina. Ms. Patricia Darza?
Good evening, everybody.
Good evening.
I'm in favor of keeping our airport. As we grow in Wakulla County, the importance of having the airport is very good. I was a flight attendant for 14 years, and there's a pilot shortage in the United States of America. Our children need a positive thing to look forward to. If they learn how to fly, they will have something to think about and something for them to dream about. It will get them off the street. It will make Wakulla County a place for their future aviators to call how to begin their flight skills, okay? Just because we are a grass strip airport doesn't mean we don't have a big heart. Our youth need us to keep this airport going. When they see the airplanes flying above as a little boy or girl, and they're dreaming about the skies, do you know what Wakulla County can actually make that little boy or girl's dream come true? If we close that airport, that little boy or girl will never have that dream. And there's a pilot shortage, so that's more jobs. So that's very important. I understand that we don't have the big airport like Tallahassee Airport, but in my heart of hearts, Wakulla is home. Wakulla is the place of dreams. So please keep our youth and keep all of Wakulla flying high.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Jons Erafi, sorry for the mispronunciation.
We're not voting on the airport tonight.
Okay, my name is Dr. Hali, and I'm former professor in pharmacy and Florida State University also. I work with a lot of research in the lab. And right now I'm a member of an AUPA, Aviation Organization and Experimental Aircraft Association. And we have 3 aircrafts at Wakulla Airport as 3 projects we work on it. We learn every day about aviation. Sometimes we have some students from high school. They can ask us questions, they learn with us, and we invite anyone from high school to come to learn about aviation. Now, my point, I'm in favor to keep our airport open. Is good resource for the county. Is really good resource for education, especially for education. We are in an area we fly to space. We go to the moon, we go to Mars, we go many places we go. And this small pilot, they learn from small airport. These astronauts, you can ask them, they will learn from small airport, from a county, they learn from small place, from small school, they start from this. And this is the basic. If you don't learn from the basic, you can never fly. Even you can put you in front of big aircraft, you need to have the basic. You need to have aerodynamic, you will have small basic in science. And this will learn in small airport, like grass trip, or with people they have experience, they teach us, retired people. And this is why you need them in this small airport. Now, second thing, we have a lot, in the future we will have jam in the road, a lot of traffics. In the future of everyone flying to go place to place. If you want to go 1 hour or less, you need to fly. Otherwise, you are stuck in traffic and you stay 3 hours, 4 hours, and you are there. And especially if you have a medical problem, someone have heart attack or asthma, stroke, you need something to pick him from airport or something and fly and go back to the hospital if you want to save his life. And also, during emergency, only airport used by federal agency to drop food, water, everything, because they fly by helicopter, by airplane, a lot help you can get. My second point, I say in education, I don't go in economic reason to support the economy. In the future, we will have small airplane, no noise. They have no noise because they're electric or hydrogen. You don't hear them. They go because they're advanced engine with electric simple. They only do, even gasoline or fuel or fossil is electric with battery, lithium battery, and they go fly from place to place. And they need, and I believe also a lot of companies, they will invest in the small airport to set, charging your airplane with electric system. Hydrogen, they have small hydrogen tank to charge your airplane, small airplane, and fly from place to place. And this is really important because we will not have no problem with noise. More we advance in the future, less we need fuel, fossil, and noise.
Okay, thank you very much. Mr. Steve Foltz?
Good evening, Commissioner. Steve Foltz, 35 Monocoop Circle. I'm pretty sure you all know where I stand on the airport. I want to say it's a little bittersweet this evening
that this item has been tabled. I fully understand why. I understand there's been a lot of developments and you need to get your arms around that. And I appreciate you taking and doing the due diligence and having Commissioner Hess here to do that. Having said that, I just want you to please appreciate there were a lot of people that came from quite a distance for this meeting because they're passionate about the airport and trying to save the airport. And I would just like to encourage anybody here at the meeting, whether you're a proponent or an opponent, because it's been tabled, please feel free to fill out a Citizens to be Heard card so that at least your opinion could be heard this evening, because some people may not be able to make it back for the next meeting when it comes back up again. So that's all I'll say. I'll reserve my comments maybe for the next meeting when it comes up. But again, I know you guys have a tough job. You get pulled all directions. I get that. But I certainly appreciate the consideration that's being given to the issue now. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Alan Pfeiffer?
Good evening, Commissioners. Alan Pfeiffer. Oh, I'm disappointed we're not going to have that battle royale tonight. I really wanted to say how lucky it is to work with the citizens of Wakulla County. In the last 3 weeks, a group of citizens has pulled out a miracle. You know, I'm holding a letter in my hand issued today by FDOT that the 333 issue no longer exists. The taking issue no longer exists. I think it's important that everybody knows about this, because this started with a call to the governor less than 3 weeks ago and has resulted in an opinion letter from the general counsel of FDOT. This was quite a lift. I think it's something the county could have done 9 years ago. But this is going to help a lot of airports, not just Wakulla, but there's a number of other similarly situated airports all across the state that have the same problem. I will really appreciate everything you're doing to get our airport back on track. I hope that the final decision goes in that direction. All of us stand to work with you hand in glove and whatever it takes to get this thing done. Thank you very much for allowing me to make my comments. Do the right thing. That's all I got to say. Have a good evening.
Alex Griffeo?
Hello, my name is Alex Graffio. I live at 131 Turkey Run Road, and first I want to thank the commission, especially Mr. Thomas and Ms. Smith for being really responsive. I was really impressed, and you weren't afraid to engage, so thank you on any topic that's important. I just want to bring up something that's not read about a lot or heard about a lot, and it's non-Tar Pond residents, a group of students at our Wakulla High School Aerospace Tech program, and also Wakulla Middle is now starting an aerospace tech program. And we're so lucky in Wakulla County to have this airport because it's a really low traffic environment, unlike Tallahassee, where I can bring these kids out and there's a really safe atmosphere to show them things. I could taxi around. I've even taken some up in the air. That's the goal too, is as they get book knowledge from their courses, I'm able to take them up on the side, and I don't charge them. I'm going to be flying anyway, so I bring them up in the plane as long as I get the okay from their folks, and we start teaching them some hands-on activities and instruction to back up what they're learning in the books. So I think hands-on is really how you learn. I mean, you need both. I'm an engineer, so I believe in the book side too, but the best engineers know what the heck they're doing in real life, working on things. So just like this weekend, we had it was not associated with the airport issue, but they just happened to have a group of pilots there. They invited me and the boys that I have now. We call ourselves the Wakulla Aero Club, but they don't like that name. They say it's not cool enough, so they may change it soon. But as long as I keep learning, that's good. But they were able to meet someone who just became an airline pilot. They were able to meet several retired pilots, and some of them airlines, and even A&P mechanics, which
Wakulla High School, what a great system. We also have a program with the A&P school at Lively. So we have had people use this airport and go on to airline careers. So I just want you to, I'm sure you will, I want you to consider them. And remember, it's not just a subdivision and with neighbors going at each other. There's a whole other county there and even people out of the county. So thank you so much. Appreciate it. I won't go any further because
It's fine.
thank you, sir. Thank you, sir.
Mr. Clay Kirsteiner.
Good evening, folks. Clay Kirsteiner, 8 Stinson. First, I would like to say thank you for the opportunity to address the board, and I'd also like to thank you all for your collective efforts for all the citizens of Wakulla County. I know we all don't agree on things all the time, but that's part of America, and that's why we move forward. I'll curtail most of my remarks tonight to reiterate some irrefutable facts that need to be remembered as this discussion of the airport moves forward. First of all, there have been over 20 homes built in this county because that airport is there. That's what brought 20 families to live in Wakulla County. Those homes bring increased assessed value that produce revenue funds for not only the county but for our schools. While the homes in the Tarpine subdivision are modest by most standards, every collective $1 million of assessed value generates $14,000 of revenue, over $14,000 of tax revenue for the school and the county. And your actions also impact the schools. Whether you close the airport or not, the devaluation of those properties adversely impacts the tax revenue of our schools. Number 4, the ad valorem tax dollars generated by the aviation-related properties far and exceed the cost of the county to operate that airport. Number 5, if the airport were to be closed, the devaluation of those properties, as indicated, not only impact the county, but they impact the schools. And I applaud you from the standpoint that withdrawing the item from tonight's meeting is an appropriate move, particularly in light of the new information that's moving forward. And I'd point out to you also that in about 6 weeks, we will have an election that will change the complexion of this board to one extent or another. And it's appropriate that the new board make decisions on things that are moving forward as opposed to the old board making decisions that are pushed onto the new board. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Cheryl Kirsteiner.
Good evening, Commissioners. I'm Sherry Kirsteiner. I live at 8 Stinson Taxiway, and I've been before you in the past. Nice to see you. First of all, thank you for hearing our citizens' comments. I have a couple of unrelated items that I wanted to address tonight. The first is the definition of surplus property. And I looked it up. At Article 2.302 in the Wakulla County Code of Ordinances. And it states with regard to property declared surplus, determine whether such property is unusable or no longer needed for county purposes. So I thought about that, and I thought by that definition, basically, to declare it surplus property is to say that the use of the airport for emergency evacuation for residents in the south part of the county, as a staging area for hurricane relief and supplies for stranded residents, and for use by the U.S. military for practicing water search and rescue and short and soft field maneuvers simulating real conditions, don't qualify as public purpose. And I think you'll agree with me, all those things are dramatic public purpose. Another item that I wanted to talk to you about was a survey. Citizens for Wakulla Airport commissioned an independent third-party research firm to conduct a survey of respondents selected from the voter rolls and according to the demographics of the county as to gender, race, age, and political affiliation to determine the will of the county with regard to the airport. I don't know if you've seen the results, but 86% of county voters strongly favor keeping the airport open. 91% find it either very or somewhat important to maintain the airport for the State Division of Emergency Management and the National Guard in delivering relief, supplies, and aid.
91% find it either very or somewhat important that local residents experiencing medical emergencies are able to continue receiving urgent, life-saving evacuation via helicopter from the Wakulla Airport. 80% find it either somewhat or very important that the airport continues to serve 3 military bases for training and operations, search and rescue scenarios, and humanitarian missions. 94% of respondents prefer that the county spend the minimal $3,000 to upkeep the airport rather than subscriptions for commissioners. So I have the results of the survey. If you would like to see that, I can make copies and get them to you. In addition to that survey, an online petition collected over 350 signatures in less than a week to save the airport, and a rally point booth set up in Crawfordville attracted 161 signatures of individuals driving by. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Recker?
Have you all seen that survey, by the way?
Yeah, I've seen it.
Just curious.
Ted Recker, 31 Cessna Lane. Live in the community affected. I saw closing the airport as an attack on my home. I live in a small 2-bedroom house with 1,161 square feet. I have a 1,775 square foot hangar, and destroying the use would be catastrophic to me. Publicly, it's a public use airport. We're not the people that live there like me are not the major users. There are far more people using the airport than us, but not to the extent that it was used historically. Some years back, there was a mechanic, fuel available from a truck, not a fuel farm, that brought people in. There was flight training going on there. When you flight train, the students make one landing after another. They stay in the pattern over and over again. Far more traffic than we'll probably ever have, even if we fix it up to the standards in the master or APL. I want to say I'm happy to live in Wakulla County. I came here partly for that airport and partly for the other amenities of the county. I'm very proud of its citizens, 86% of whom support keeping our airport. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr.
Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I ask the attorney a question that was brought up earlier?
You certainly may.
I read that letter from DOT. Does it resolve the noise ordinance issue? To me, it just says you don't have to do a noise study. But if you don't, you have to do the zoning restrictions.
It says you don't have to do a noise study. It doesn't go on to elaborate the results of that, but by statute and by their own 2020 manual, it left that, they did not address that question.
It looked to me like it said, no, you don't have to do it. But if you don't, it falls back to this, which is zoning restrictions. So
I'd like to address that and maybe seek some clarification on that letter, and we can discuss that during Commissioner.
Sure.
Commissioner Adams tonight?
Yeah.
Discussion.
All righty. So that is all the citizens we heard for the first round? No awards and presentations?
Move consent. Second.
No motion is second to move consent. All in favor?
Aye.
No consent items pulled for discussion. Moving into general business.
Yes, Madam Chair, tab 19, this is request approval of amendment number 8 of the amended and restated agreement for operations, maintenance, and management services between Wakulla County and ESG. This is for the operations and maintenance of our wastewater, entire wastewater system.
Motion to. Guys, we're still having a meeting, please. Second. Motion to. Mike put it in.
Okay, I have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Number 23.
Yes, Madam Chair. This agenda item requests board consideration and approval of utility facilities construction and reimbursement agreement between the county and Hartsville Construction Incorporated. This, as part of we discussed this with the developer of the Hamptons, before, prior to even breaking ground is at the site plan stage. What it does is we're basically, we had to do this work anyway, but he's actually doing a big portion of it on his own, and we're paying just $22,000 of that.
Motion to approve. Second. This is something similar we did on the flowers, if I remember correctly.
Flowers also at Palmetto.
Upgrade the force main to serve the new school.
That's right, this is upgrading this force main as well. That's something we needed to have done.
Allows us to send it east instead of to.
Well, it allows us now to essentially what it does is it pushes it now to Palmetto, and then this makes Palmetto the main lift station.
And then it goes to Wakulla Garden.
That's right, then it goes to Wakulla Garden.
Well, it goes through Hickory.
That's right, now it just pushes into the main, but it can't do that forever, so this will take it to Palmetto, take it from there and go.
That's that problem we have every time a lift station comes on, the pressure keeps building up, and the next guy tries to, the next guy overcomes it.
This takes care of that problem, as well as ties in, it takes care of that, Fox Run, the Hamptons, and also Chadwick.
So you'll have redundancy back the other way still for, say, Fox Run.
Yes.
Any more discussion? All in favor? Aye. Passes unanimously. Planning and zoning.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The first item is an application for change of zoning, R2219. This application requests approval for a change of zoning from C2 to CTTP on a portion of 3 parcels containing just over 13 acres located on the east side of Spring Creek Highway, north of Coastal Highway 98.
None.
None.
I talked to David McCleary.
If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information regarding this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Thank you.
Yes, as Heather indicated, this zoning request is for just over 13 acres located in the northeast corner of the intersection of Spring Creek Highway and Coastal Highway 98. This is a request to rezone from C2 General Commercial to CTTP, which is Commercial Travel Trailer Park. The Planning Commission reviewed this request last week and voted unanimously to recommend approval.
Motion to approve. Second.
No motion. And second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
David, you didn't want to speak, did you? No. Okay, good. You're welcome. All right, we're going to move right on to number 21, please.
Thank you. This is an application for final plat, FP 2206, Docks C on the Bay. This is requesting approval of a final plat for a 2-lot residential subdivision. The subject property is located at 2441 Surf Road and contains about 0.68 acres in the ex parte communication.
Final plat, we gotta do that?
Yes.
No.
None.
None.
If there's anyone here who's going to provide any information on this application, please stand up to be sworn. Do you swear or affirm to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth? Thank you.
Motion to approve. Second.
Have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Commissioner, agenda items, seeing none. County Attorney?
Nothing this evening?
Thank you. County Administrator?
Nothing at this time.
Jeff, any citizens to be heard? Thank you. Stephen? Yours?
Close, I'll take it.
Okay.
Stephen Sharness, 24 Bay Drive. Usually no matter how much I prepare for this, I screw it up, so I'm gonna give it my best shot. Thank you for serving Wakulla County. My family bought our house at 24 Bay Drive in May 2021. I did a lot of research, loved the area, loved the fishing. I like the fact that there was an airport right beside me also. Nobody outside of Tar Pine residents live any closer to that airport than I do. Yet nobody asked my opinion how I felt about the airport, a noise study, anything. I guess because I don't full-time live here. Although I'd like to retire here and maybe at the end of next year. I sent a letter to all the commissioners expressing my support of the airport and asking that you reconsider. Mr. Hess responded, there was very limited support for the airport. If more of the county wanted it, they never expressed the support to the board. A recent survey and petitions speak differently. Mr. Thomas and I went back and forth with a couple emails, and he closed thanking me and offered that he was available if I'd like to discuss it any further. You, Ms. Smith, you and I went back and forth a couple of times trying to actually meet up so I can learn a little bit more about it. It just never worked out. Mr. Merritt never responded. Maybe because he's stepping away after this year and felt like it might not be of concern to him. I don't know. But I ask you all, and I realize that the item has been moved, but if he's already stepped away, maybe he shouldn't be here today voting on the issue, or any issue. I see a lot of comments on social media about taxes. A lot of people that don't support the airport are concerned over their taxes. Should I protest the golf course because I don't golf? I'm not a golfer and I've tried. More drinking than golfing, I guess, when I'm out there. But my neighbors and friends golf. Well, I say build it. Boat ramps, fishing piers, walking paths, an animal shelter, police officer training, fish and wildlife division. Some of those things don't affect me at all, but they do affect me. They affect all of us. Should we protest every one of them that we 100% don't back? Commissioner's travel expenses. Whatever it takes for us as a community to succeed, that's how I feel. Military training, who needs that, right? They can train someplace else. Have any of you had a child on deployment for 9 months? I have. With the 48th Brigade, 3rd Infantry Division in the U.S. Army. Remember one call we got and told us he couldn't tell us where he was. Is that my 3 minutes already?
Yep.
Thank you.
All he could tell us was that he was going to be doing assignments with the Special Forces, so you can imagine how we felt about that. Thankfully, he came home. Please take the time and pour the community for your decision on closing the airport. I fully 100% back the airport.
Thank you.
And all the positive things that come from it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Mr. Chris Russell.
He's back.
He's
Got
back.
his shoes too when he comes up here.
Bash.
Can the TV catch his shoes?
You need to roll up your jeans.
Good night. I have my earring in next meeting. Hello. Chris Russell, Master Pumco. First of all, that's Greg James over there, a good man of God, who can verify that I wrote this before. Last gentleman spoke. Randy, in case I don't make it back before the election, thank you for serving. Thank you. You've been a gentleman. We don't always agree, but you've been an ambassador. I've seen you sit right there in the middle when two sides are warring, and you kept the peace, and you're always respectful. So thank you for doing that. Thank you.
Thank you for pulling that agenda item tonight. On that, I came to express my support for the airport. I hope we can find a way to get there. I really do. It's got a lot of value to us. Now, there are things that, we pay for that we don't use. Like my kids have never gone to the rec park, the horse pavilion, all that kind of stuff. But, they bring value. So if we can find a way to make that work, let's try to make it work. I hope both sides will be civil on that matter, but definitely want to see that airport stick around. Randy, thank you for serving, and thank you all for serving.
Thank you, Chris. Nice shoes.
Will you please take note that Chris Russell didn't use all of his 3 minutes? Of course, just kidding. Let's see here. How about Ivan Thomas, John Thomas, Jen Thomas, Taines,
Ralph Thomas.
Ralph Thomas.
Anybody fill out a card?
Anybody fill out a card that looks like Taines or Thomas? Ionian? They left? Okay.
Been hacking up names pretty bad tonight, so don't feel bad.
And again, since you only have 3 meetings, maybe. Okay, here we go, our favorite part of the evening, discussion, issues by commissioners. I'm starting on this end tonight.
Thank you very
You're
much.
welcome.
So, we all got the letter from FDOT today, and I think that was nice that we finally got something in writing, and I believe it was partially helpful. It did say that we don't have to do a noise study, but that's not news to us. The statute, has not changed since 2016. The statute clearly states that we either have to do a noise study or we have to do a zoning district around the airport. The letter kind of left that out. Can I read that verbatim? Just yes, please do. It says, subparagraph, blah, 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 Florida statutes provide that if the entity operating the public use airport has conducted a noise study in accordance with 40 CFR or an alternative study approved by FAA, then the airport landing compatibility zoning regulations must prohibit incompatible uses as indicated in the compliant noise study. In the event the operating public use airport has not conducted a noise study, then subparagraph D is applicable, which requires the airport land use compatibility zoning regulation addressing the prohibition of residential construction at any educational facility. So, what it says in this letter from the council is that if you don't do the noise study, you have to prohibit residential stuff. It doesn't. There's no epiphany in this letter. It's saying the same thing we've been saying all along. Right. Okay, we agree on that. That, yes, sir, absolutely. And that's also reiterated in the FDOT 2020 Airport Airspace and Land Use Guidebook, page 44 to 100. It's basically the same language. It says residential construction in any educational facility is prohibited if we don't have a noise study. And then it also says Florida statutes also stipulates public welfare protection measures where an airport sponsor has not conducted a Part 150 or other FAA-approved noise study. In such cases, the airport protection zoning ordinance must prohibit residential uses. It doesn't say must if or if then. It says must prohibit it. Agreed. Now, this past week, I spent a lot of time on the phone, and I don't think that the intent, I know for a fact, the intent of FAA was not for us to do this noise study. I agree. So I spoke with the Florida Association of Counties, many counties across the state. I was at a conference last week, so I took advantage to grab small counties that have small airports and ask them how they've handled this. Without exception, none of them even know that it exists. So none of them that I have spoke to have handled this at all. Worked with the National Association of Counties, but the most helpful was Congressman Dunn's office. He finally made a connection for me through the FAA, and I want to read to you what they said. So two different things. So this is from the FAA. Our understanding is the state of Florida is misinterpreting FAA guidance, as you referenced. We are calling the state of Florida to explain the nature of the guidance and that we feel they are interpreting in a way that we would not. Now let me back up and state for the public that the Florida statute references the federal law as the basis for requiring this noise study. Nothing in the state statute delineates any different types of airports. So basically, according to the state statute, the study that we would do for Reagan International is the same study that we're required to do on the small grass strip.
Well, Ralph, having said that, and I'm not disagreeing with what you're saying at all, but it's not being interpreted administratively, it's being interpreted by statute, right? Which is not something somebody can just say, oh, hey, we got this wrong, we need to change it.
Totally agree.
They have to go through the entire legislative process,
Totally agree.
statewide, to change that one sentence right there.
Yep, absolutely. And I'm going to address that.
I just want to make sure everybody, it's not a quick fix, they can't just go all the government.
It's not a matter of saying, oops, we missed it. Y'all don't have to do it.
Okay.
Okay. So this is also from the FAA. It says this language is problematic for the FAA because, one, we do not approve noise contours, but rather we accept contours and approve a noise compatibility program that is based on the contours. And number two, we neither accept nor approve noise contours or NCPs for airports that are not within the NPIAS, so Wakulla County is stuck in a legal gray area. That's the FAA's opinion. Using the alternate methodology, one half the length of the runway is a radius. There are at least 100 residential lots within this resulting area. So the FAA, the federal regulation is the basis for the state statute. FAA agrees that we've been put in a gray area and the language is problematic. Back to your point, I totally agree with you, and I have approached Representative Schaaf to initiate that process. Had we known this 5 years ago, I believe we would have started down this road in a legislative local bill instead of trying to do the special district that we did. And I think it probably would have been a lot less bruises for all of us, a lot easier to get through. I think it needs to be clarified. Basically what it boils down to, this NPIAS is a federal list of airports. Now, all of those airports receive federal funds. Franklin County, Apalachicola, they're going to get $6 million over the next 5 years. Wakulla County gets exactly zero. And so we're not getting any money in federal funds because we're not on the federal list, yet our statute is holding us to the standard of those who are on the list.
Let's go back to something similar, like when we're assist designation for a road, for example. That's money comes from the state, but the state got it from the feds.
Right.
So if we accept grant money for the airport that came from a federal source, then we are accepting federal money.
Well, my point is we're not on the NPIA list, and so FAA
Have never accepted a grant for that, right?
Well, no, it's because we're a general use, we're a small airport, we're a non-commercial.
We did accept the grant for the airport layout plan.
Yeah, so
That was state only, not.
So we've never met the requirement of being on this list. Now, I'm not going to tell you that I'm an expert in the NPIS, and I'm sure there are people out there, and I wish we would have known this 5 years ago. We could have dug in a little deeper. But right now, the FAA acknowledged that they had very little regulatory authority over Wakulla County's airport. Now, the others that are on the list, they have full regulatory authority, and they have strings and money that comes along. So I have approached Representative Schaaf. We've had multiple conversations already. He said for me to let you guys know that he was going to work with us to try to work this thing out and try to get it through the statute. We all know how that goes. He's one man that can sponsor a bill, and so there's a lot of lift, a lot of work that has to go to. But I think that's ultimately our best path, is let's clean that up, and it's going to clean it up not just for us, but any other small airports that's also not on that list. And it's a simple fix. Just say that noise study or that alternative zoning district applies to airports that are on the federal NPIAS.
It should have been like that all the time.
See, like that, one sentence takes out the requirement of the noise study. That's a lot of folks, this thing has gotten way off track that we just don't want an airport. And I've never heard any of you guys say that. All I've ever heard is we just don't want to spend $300,000-$400,000 on the noise study for an airport.
Well, my position's evolved a little bit on this, to be honest with you.
Okay.
The thing that scares me the most, irregardless of the noise study, is the fact that the DOT has said if we accept grant money on that airport, we are forever bound to keep it in compliance. And I'm worried the legislature's going to change something else. I don't know what they might say from now on, every airport has to have a full-time person there. I don't know, it's something crazy. I'm not saying that's what we're going to do. I'm just a little reluctant to bound future boards and the taxpayers. If we accept grant money, I wish there was a different way to do this. I've said it all along, I don't mind the airport being there the way it is today. I think we all agree on that. Sure. So if there was a way forward along that route, fine, but I don't think at this point I'm willing to accept grant money just because of that.
Well, and that's a different conversation down the road.
Exactly.
I think that, our first stumbling block was this noise study or zoning district, and this would help us fix that. That would eliminate that.
Don't get me wrong, I got 4 meetings left. If you want to try to run through the legislature, we'll be here for 4 years.
That's my recommendation, for sure. I think that ultimately fixes the problem. We know that they would
Just add us to the list?
Well, it would change the statute. Right. No, I'm not asking to be added to the NPIS.
I want to make sure everybody was clear on that.
A language in there that just states that the requirements that's already there today applies to airports that are on the NPIAS list. which Wakulla does not, and as far as I know, we've never been on.
Not that we get too deep into the weeds about this. Let's say this takes 2 years to do this, because we tried to get the special zoning, it's not, special taxing district at Tarpine twice. What do we do in the interim?
I think we cross that bridge. I think we give a little more push immediately for March. March is the session. If we got Representative Schoaf on board, I think we do a full push on it now, and let's try to make it work.
Do we not need to discuss this at the next board meeting then, if we're going to call
That
that?
was going to be my recommendation is, as we explore, Mr. Phillips' land donation to the county, and we explore this, and then we set a date for it to come back to us. That was going to be my motion.
That's fine with me, brother. That's just one less thing I got to worry about.
Those are two big pieces to the puzzle. Thank you, Steve, for being willing to donate the land. That's huge. But we still got to make sure we can resolve this and know that whether we're doing a noise study or a zoning district or exempt from either, we need to be rock solid there and then move forward with the 5-0 vote. Would this be clear enough direction for you?
4-0.
4-0 vote?
Well, Chuck's here in spirit. And then we wouldn't discuss it.
I think so. I mean, we have to, we'll have to get under, I'll have to talk to Steve some more, get clarification on that, as well as to move that forward, we'll need to.
So March is your timeline, though, to try?
Well, March is when the session starts.
At least see if we'll make it through committee or something.
Well, let's get a bill. Let's get a bill sponsored so we know it's heading.
That's your motion to do that. I'll second it.
And then at that point, when we know we've got both of those issues on the right track, then we'll bring it back and make a final decision on it.
Giddy up.
Well, and naturally, this throws a curveball back to Steve, I would imagine. But I'll talk to him about that, unless y'all want to talk to him. But I'll talk to him about that and some clarifications from him. But then I would be pursuing, as I told y'all earlier, I'd be pursuing our due diligence on it, just like we do other land donations. Get a land donation contract.
Y'all will need to look up at some point the wetland impacts, all this other. Absolutely, but that'll be at some future point.
Yeah, but we would start that process, but it would be only after we get under contract with.
What does this do for a license that you're up in January, but it don't start?
We'll have to cross that bridge when we get there. We'll have to.
What's the rush on doing this tonight?
What do you mean?
I'm saying, what is the rush on making a decision on this tonight?
Well, all I'm saying is look for the board's guidance if we're going to move forward with this potential change in the statute. And so we're not going to make a decision on that other than let's explore that option with the representative.
If we do decide to go his option, in my mind, then there's no need to have this next meeting, because y'all are going to pursue legislative solution to this, which is completely up in the air. So, I mean, I'm fine with what you're saying.
The representative told me to make sure I let you guys know that he's on board and he's going to work with us and do everything he can to make it work. So he hasn't backed up from it. I mean, we see two of these things are brand new. The DOT letter came today, Steve's offer came today, and so we need time to digest that and make sure that we got all our I's dotted and T's crossed, but regardless if anyone thinks the DOT letter is crystal clear, the FAA doesn't think it's crystal clear. They made that very clear. And so I think having those two documents are very important, the FAA information and the DOT letter. I think it's something that we could have used 5 years ago, but we didn't have. And so I think we need to move that forward.
Just for future reference, I know I won't be when y'all vote on this, but those aren't the only considerations, of course, and I know y'all will consider all that.
Understood.
Any more discussion? Sue, can you repeat what you would like for us to do in layman terms without the acronym? And I'm not being funny, I'm saying it's very complicated for everyone.
Absolutely.
Renee needs to understand.
It's serious,
Okay.
he's asking.
So I make a motion, one, that we revisit Randy's motion at the beginning to bring it back at the next meeting. And we bring that back once we have, forward motion on Steve's donation of the land and forward motion on a potential bill to clarify this language. Then at that point, we bring it back for consideration.
When you've got some positive legislative action.
Absolutely. And I'm not saying let's wait until after it goes to the legislature, because If for some reason we can't get a bill sponsored, then obviously we don't need to wait. But if we're moving in the right direction and it looks like we can clarify that, then I think that's going to put us in the best possible shape, because then it's not just an interpretation issue.
So you're talking about the October 3rd meeting. Do you want staff to bring something back?
No, I say don't even set a date certain
Okay.
until we work.
I'll
Work
probably,
out these wrinkles. Y'all are gonna work
I'll probably
together.
bring back something sooner than,
Yeah. Now, we want it as soon as possible, as soon as we got the pieces together so we can move this forward. But it's just gonna strengthen our ability to move forward with the airport as it was, and to keep the license in place, and to, bring it into compliance, expand it according to AOP, whatever we need to do. We still need to clarify this discrepancy in the DOT information.
He's gonna bring it back AR, Quincy, after Randy.
That could not be soon enough. Of course, I'm just kidding. Okay, are you clear?
yes.
Okay, that
Madam
sounds...
Chair, before you go see about it, I just wanted one thing to this board's credit. The very first thing you all did back in 2017 was have David and I and Shirley Q at that time go to FDOT to try to get a legislative change.
And my thing,
And so you guys were on it back then. They said no, they wouldn't help us, and we're not in favor of it and would fight it. And at that time, we also asked for a written interpretation of Chapter 333, which they refused to give.
And I think with the Congressman's involvement and with FAA weighing in, hopefully we'll get a different response this
I
time.
agree, they probably have a lot more pull than we did, but we asked them to please consider, of course, we want changes for this small airport, so
they
they
actually should have considered in 96 when they changed. This whole timeline has been over and over and over. So thank you for the acronym explanation. Thank you, Representative Schiff, Congressman Dunn. Do we need a vote?
Yes.
Okay. All in favor of Ralph's motion? Aye. All righty.
You got that, Renee?
Do you got that, Renee? Okay.
But she has to rewatch these videos over and over again.
Exactly.
We buy you a nameplate too.
Yeah, that's what I keep saying. I don't have any discussion issues by commissioners. We did have a really great, busy, voluntary weekend around here. We have a lot of amazing things going on, and most of us were participating in those things. So thank you very much for that.
I'm probably one of the things I want to look at, I talked to Summer today. I want us to take a look at our height requirement. I know y'all talked about it a couple years ago. Where
This is the courthouse aesthetic.
courthouse study, we need to take a look at it. I understand if we do it within a corridor of around the courthouse, but I think something that's in Menark or north of Crossville or even outside of that, we really need to take a look at that and see, because there's some stuff that people want to do that they're not able to do that is actually going to bring business to Wakulla County. So I think that's something we really need to take a look at if everybody's on board with it.
Was it 30 feet now?
35?
35 feet in most of your commercial zoning districts, both in and outside of the Crawfordville Town Plan.
I wouldn't support it in close proximity to the courthouse, but
No, that's
with you, if it's out of way, then,
Smith Creek?
yeah.
Well, or it's out of the view of the courthouse.
Yeah, that's what I'm not talking about. I'm talking about anything. I know there's boundaries already.
Yeah, we have boundaries set for the town plan area, but then also the core district, in which the courthouse and, we're kind of situated right now in the core district. So it may be better served to keep that outside of the core district, maybe both in and out of the town plan, so long as it's outside the core district.
Well, I know a lot of people complain that we don't have enough lodging. If there's a big event going on, they gotta go to Tallahassee when their kids are maybe playing softball, a tournament on the weekends. And I've heard folks say that most hotels want a minimum 5 stories. How did the Wildwood and the...
So what's currently the Magnuson, previously Wildwood, was done through a PUD. So there is options
Specific
through
area.
PUDs to create your own zoning regulations. So it actually allows for a much
And
higher.
Holiday Inn, I think, is only 3 stories. If we get a recommendation for us to bring something back, that'd be great, wouldn't it, Summer?
Oh, yeah.
That's what I first have to do. We'll look at it.
Y'all,
And I agree
that, we would be glad to do that.
Someone, do you have anything to do? You know, okay.
Always looking.
Yeah, we gotta move on this, because this is, and it's not against summer, it's just we've had something we need to do for a while, so.
Okay,
Put it to the list.
so what is the motion? What would you like for that to say?
Not a movement. Head nod's fine with us.
Okay, that would have been much easier for his too, but anyway,
Oh, his was a little.
I want to backtrack too and thank Summer for number 8 on consent tonight and all of the due diligence that you have done with regard to that going on for quite some time. Commissioner Merritt,
I wanted to complain about another road to Chuck, but he's not here.
he's not here. So what you doing over there? Perfect.